Hi, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. I'm your host, Becca. I'm a certified personal trainer, holistic health coach, and future chiropractor on my way to figuring out this thing we called life. Now, let's get babbling. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. Today, I'm really excited for you to listen to this interview with Dr. Sirchio. We dive into all things nutrition, health, wellness, and how the wellness community might actually be making you sicker. Dr. Sirchio is a chiropractor and a certified clinical nutritionist for over 20 years. She is a mom of four and understands that never-ending to-do list. And when you are trying to strive for your health, she gets what it's like to be busy and needing to work on your health at the same time. She specializes in functional and lifestyle medicine and works with patients with autoimmune disorders, IBS, thyroid disease, and much more. She is a frequent post-grad lecturer and producer of the Women's Health series. She's also the author of the Nourish series, Prenatal Nutrition, and she is a powerful advocate in helping other people restore their health and heal from the inside out. I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this episode because we dive into different areas of health and wellness. And we also talk about how myself with struggling with PCOS, a chronic disease, trying to figure that out in the midst of like not having that much money and being in grad school, but still wanting to honor and nourish my body. So I can't wait to hear your guys' feedback on this episode. Let me know what you thought of this episode. You can find Dr. Sirchio at the Human Health series, where she shares recipes and helpful tips. She does say beware of her account, just because she does like to put her twist of humor on it. So she is a great light and she's super funny, but I have nothing else to say here. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this episode, and I can't wait to babble with you next time. I like to start every podcast with just like a general question so everyone can get to know you. And that is, imagine yourself in a library and you're walking to that library and you open up a dictionary. And in that dictionary, it has your name. How are you defined in that dictionary?
Vivacious.
Vivacious? Ooh, I love that. Okay. So I know you have your whole like human health series on Instagram, and like you're passionate about talking about like the wellness culture and you're in the functional medicine space. What brought you to that space?
So, I mean, I think a lot of things over the years. I would say even when I was in school, some of the classes that I really liked the best were really like the anatomy and physiology, and I really liked the nutritional stuff. Certainly in school, we didn't learn a lot of nutrition. A lot of it seemed at the time very focused to like what was going to be on boards. You know, it wasn't really how to use it clinically or anything else, but it was interesting for me. And I was like, oh, I wish we would know more. I really liked the internal medicine sort of sections of things. And when I opened my practice, I started out a little bit more in the rehab space. And I liked the idea of spending a little bit more time with people, getting people back to moving better. And that was a great first starting spot, you know, like out of the gate. But right away, patients were like, I don't know if I'm eating what I should. I don't know what's a good lunch. And I just found myself kind of, you know, giving the same answer to everybody. A salad and chicken. I must have said salad and chicken for weeks on end to every single person for all answers. And it was one of those where I was like, I knew I wasn't wrong. Like, salad's good for you and so is chicken. But it also was like such a, you know, blanket answer for all things. And I was like, I don't even want to eat salad and chicken anymore. I have no, like, I think I know how to take care of myself, but I really don't have good information. And then I would have like, you know, you just start to earn people's trust. And so they might come in with hip pain, but then they start asking you other things because they're like, well, you've been a good resource so far and you seem to be listening and caring, which are all great things. Like that's a good thing for your, you know, patient to feel. But then they do start asking you all kinds of questions. And I was like, wow, I am really just not well versed enough in things I wish I knew better and things that are interesting for me. You know, like if you came in and you were like, my toenail is funky and whatever else, I'm like, that's going to need some care and by someone else. I'm going to refer you somewhere really great, but guess what? I don't ever care to fix that. Like, not for me. Whereas the nutritional stuff and like how their body was feeling and Why were they lightheaded at certain times? Like all of that. It wasn't just that I didn't know how to help them, but I really did want to know how. I was like, yeah, what is going on? Like, I'd like to know. So I returned to get a clinical nutrition certification, um, which took, I don't know, it was like another year and a half. Um, and it was great. It was not just food and learning about different types of eating and how it could, definitely help people out, but it really went into lab work, far more in depth than with the knowledge I had graduated with. Different types of labs, whether they're salivary or stool or blood or whatever. Why you would use them at certain times, why you would track them at certain times. And it was like this whole other world just opened of like, oh, not only is this fascinating, I actually prefer this. This is what I'd really like to be doing all the time. And I would say like over the years, like it can be called, integrative medicine or complementary medicine. Right now it's being called functional medicine, but a lot of it is similar wheels being reinvented and just shared differently. But the information is always great and it's always helpful. So that sort of just lit the fire for me. And I was like, I would much rather run a bunch of labs, talk to you about all these details, watch you change your health in real time. Like that is fun for me. So that's sort of where I finally got myself to like, it took a little while to transition my practice that way. Like it took probably 10 years to really move into it all the time. But once I fully landed, it's been great.
No, I love that because I feel like sometimes, especially being in school right now, I like have an idea of what I want to do, but then it's like there's still that fear and like, oh my goodness, but like, what if it doesn't plan out the way that I want it to go? And you're just an example of like, it doesn't have to be. You can change and pivot.
You can always pivot and you probably always should. Like I look back at some of the classes that I hated in school and I wish I had just like I'm glad I learned them. I'm glad I tested well. Okay, great. But I wish I had like stopped stressing over like when will I start to love this and instead just been like, yeah, this is never going to be my thing. Like there are some people in this class that are loving this class. That's so great. I hope they stay here forever. I will not be focusing on this. So,
Yeah.
which is fine. And there really is, you'd much rather be treated by somebody who's passionate about what you're there for versus someone just giving you a blanket answer on what they think they should tell you. And you're like, okay, but that's not really, you just feel lost. So
Yeah.
it is definitely, there's a lot of pivoting at all times. And some of it is being drawn to things that you like. And some of it is finally stopping the things that like you've always hated. So,
It's very fair.
I mean, in school, you got to do it all. But there's definitely some things that I'm like, I wish I just like sweated less over when will I begin to love this and realize like, nope, I just got to pass. I just need to know the information. I got to pass the class. It's good for me to know so I know what's going on, but I can stop pretending that I'm going to fall in love with this topic. It's not going to happen.
Yep. Yeah. I feel you on that one for sure. You
Mm-hmm.
had mentioned that like functional medicine is kind of like the term that they use right now, and like it used to be like integrative medicine and stuff like that. So like I'm curious, are there any other like misconceptions you find within the like functional integrative space that is popping up?
Well, I think part of it is anytime someone introduces it to you like it's new, um, like they're new to it. It's not new. They're new, right? It's new to them. They're having their own personal discovery and they're just projecting it on everybody else, which happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
Someone will come along and be like, oh my gosh, what's really important is that we talk about protein. And, half the room is yawning. Like, yeah, like we're not going to negate that's important, but also like you just did not discover that. And I think that goes a long ways in there's like a lot of professions that for decades before I was even born, they were talking about gut health and liver health and skin health. And those are all always valid conversations. The information changes over time and we learn better things or sometimes we find out, hey, you know what? The way we did it for 50 years actually is kind of the way. Like that's a really good piece of advice and we should just stop trying to reinvent it. It's a good piece of advice. There's definitely different professions that come along the way that try to pretend like they invented whatever it is. And that it's unfortunate because I think the wide medical space always does better when everybody is sharing. And sometimes you get yourself into a room where there's lots of different degrees and lots of different backgrounds and lots of specialties, and it's very open and sharing. And it's amazing. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can walk back on Monday morning and like help 4 different patients because I talked to all these different people that have seen this and I hadn't. So some of those learning spaces are really fun. And then sometimes you get into the snooty ones where no one wants to share what they know, or they want to pretend like they invented it. And you're like, you're wasting everybody's time. Like, this is stupid. So, and our profession is guilty of that as well, right? Like, we are the only ones that know this one thing and no one else knows it. And you're like, no, that's not what's happening out there. So I would say, just kind of looking back, there's a lot of good information to be had, and we're always better when we are just kind of open doors about it.
Yeah, it's more about just like treating the patient that's in front of you than like saying that I am high and mighty and know everything.
Totally. And, or like you're the wrong profession, so like you would never know. And it's like, that's dumb because you're talking to a person. And sometimes, you'll talk to, let's say, a physical therapist. And we've definitely got some chiros out there that are like, they know nothing, only we know how to adjust. They don't even know. And then you learn more about them and you're like, oh my gosh, they've been hands-on with patients for 40 years. They've been in and out of all these different, like, they worked with stroke patients and they worked with athletes. And you're like, this person has a lot of knowledge and skill and clinical relevance. Like, everybody would do better to listen to this person because they've treated many people in many spaces. So just to like assign a title and be like, nope, they don't know it, they have the wrong letters, is like, it happens a lot. And it happens in all professions, but it's one of those where it's like, you're only shooting yourself in the foot, right? Like, you have all these opportunities to listen to people and be like, oh, you know what? I do the same thing. I called it something else, but yes, okay, good. I'm going to pick your brain, versus like, well, you would never know because you just
Yeah,
so
for sure. Well, you've obviously treated like a ton of patients, and I'm curious, I know like in the space of like wellness is starting to grow and grow, and it's almost coming to be a little bit intense of like everyone's using the term wellness. I'm curious if your thoughts on like, is the wellness culture actually making people healthier or is it harming people's health?
So I think one thing to delineate right away is that we use the phrase health and wellness, health and wellness, health and wellness, but they are very different. And wellness is often never about health. Um, Wellness is about being pretty. Wellness is about wearing the right clothes. Wellness is about being the right size. Ideally, you're very slender, you're blonde, and you're white. That would be the great picture of wellness, right? Which says nothing about health. You don't use, in the world of wellness, you don't check labs, you don't check biomarkers, you aren't measuring someone's sleep, you aren't looking at their pulse and their heart rate, you aren't evaluating their fitness regimen and can they improve their fitness, or is it getting worse, or whatever else, right? Do they have pain? Are they struggling with any mental health issues? Like, none of that is wellness. All of that is health, right? Wellness is a sales pitch and wellness is a beauty trick. So when people say health and wellness, I mean, it's a catchphrase. I get it. No one's going to necessarily separate it now just because I don't like it. But they are two separate things. It's like, if you want to talk about health and wellness, then on one page, I'm going to talk to you about how are you sleeping? And I ran your labs. And hey, let's talk about your elevated cholesterol. And hey, let's talk about how turns out you're not sleeping and you're up, playing on your phone at 2 a.m, but it's because you can't sleep. And also you're having panic attacks at 2 p.m. Like, all of that is health. Wellness, if I really wanted to improve your wellness, I would be like, okay, you're going to start at Lululemon or something else similar, and you're going to look cute, and you're definitely going to get, in my age, because I'm 49, oh my gosh, I should have like a wall of Botox and fillers, etc. At your age, you should be doing preventative Botox because God forbid you get a wrinkle. Like, that's the worst that could ever happen to you. That's the wellness space, right? And it's always been like just kind of I don't know, it's always been a mess. I think it's unfortunately just getting louder right now, right? Because wellness is also very political. Anybody can enjoy the wellness culture more with more money. That's the answer. Unfortunately, in our society, you can also get better health with more money, but ideally, changing habits, having better knowledge can change your health. Wellness, you can only improve upon with cash, right? It's a very, it's kind of like caste system based. It's very visual. It's very aesthetic. That's wellness. And when you look at, I laugh ruefully, but I laugh at like, a lot of wellness influencers because a lot of them have no background, no science background, no medical background, no, they're not dietitians. They're nothing. Like, they're just people that have like popped up into the atmosphere one day, and they happen to be cute. Sometimes they're beautiful. Sometimes they have a beautiful figure. And then all of a sudden they're giving like diet and fitness advice. And it's like, no one's doubting that you're gorgeous. Like you really are. But you kind of just showed up this way. You didn't improve your health and change your healthy skin and work on your stomach. And now your IBS is so much better. Like this did not all come to be. And you're talking about improving your health. You just showed up pretty. You want to talk about it and make money, which the current space allows for. But that doesn't mean that you know anything. You can't help anybody. So,
Yeah.
you know, and like the parasite cleanses that come up and the coffee enemas that come up, like they're hysterical because they're so asinine. But I mean, some of those people, they're raking in money, right? Like they are raking in money. And so, and you'll get some of those people in your office and they'll be like, well, I tried this and I tried that and I tried that, but like my IBS is still terrible and like I'm still really uncomfortable. And it's like, okay, so unfortunately, you've spent a lot of money. You have done a lot. Like they come in feeling like I did everything. Nothing's working. I did everything. And you're like, actually, you've done nothing useful. So in terms of how much effort have you put in? A ton. How much effort have you put into something that could potentially help you? You're still at a zero. I'm really sorry you're exhausted because you've done technically nothing yet. So you know, it's just weird out there. You know, and I would say like the old phrase was more like health and beauty. And I think that's probably a little bit more accurate, right? Like wellness took over the beauty title, but I feel like if you're talking about like, you know, you go to Walgreens, you know, like the health and beauty aids, it's like, that's actually a more accurate representation. There's some stuff for your health, and then there's like some cosmetics and skincare for your beauty. Like they're both here, they're separate, they're both in the aisle. So yeah, wellness, you know, I think wellness is just gonna get worse for a while, but you know, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times, and I do laugh with my patients over it because sometimes it is like you bought like sex dust powder and you put it in your smoothie and you don't know why you still have hypothyroid. Like the disconnect is so gigantic that we are going to spend a lot of time educating. And it's like, I applaud you for trying to help yourself. I applaud you for trying to learn something. I applaud you for finding something and then utilizing it. Like you did a lot of good steps. Unfortunately, misguided, underinformed, totally loony. That was never going to work. But if we could now keep those good habits and then like put something useful in there, you might feel better. So, you know, I try not to make people feel stupid over it because there's just so much information. How are you supposed to weed through it? Like, how are you supposed to weed through it? Right? You tried.
There's so much information going from one end to the other that it seems really overwhelming and you don't even know where to start. And like, I even know like some people within my family, they'll ask me questions and like, I'm just like, let's start with your sleep, or like, let's start with just going for a walk. But that doesn't seem sexy. Like, it's like, I can just take this pill and it seems like it's going to fix everything. But like, you're telling me I just need to go for a walk.
Right.
It's like, that seems too easy.
Well, I mean, I think you nailed it right there. Where like, it's not sexy. People want a super sexy, I got this extra special cream potion. Only I can use it. It's going to change everything. Then I buy this super special green powder that is like the most specialist of specials, you know, and it's like, okay, also you should go to bed and you should eat some vegetables. And they can be from the frozen aisle and you don't even have to put anything on them. But if you want to, you can. You know, that's not fun, but it's better for you. I mean, I feel like I give a lot of grandma advice, right? Like eat your vegetables, go to bed, get offline, don't say nasty things to people, call your friends, check on your mom, like because those scientifically all have backing into improving your health. So it's like, how's your community? Does your job suck? Do you hate everybody at your job? That's not going to work for you long term, you know? And so it's like, it is goofy, but you're right. You know, sometimes you do have to like upsell it, you know, and you can get silly with patients, you know, they're people. So sometimes you're like, you are going to find the most exciting zucchini. It's going to be rad. You're going to eat it. That's it. But I mean, you're right. Like some of the stuff that's why like when it gets into all these fancy things, it's like, if you are not sleeping and you are not exercising to some level of some benefit for you, and you aren't eating vegetables and you aren't eating protein, like I don't want to be talking about fancy stuff. Like there's a lot. There was actually a man I knew. I met him at a seminar, and he was kind of a strange guy. But one tip that he had done well, he had gotten tired of telling each patient some of those baselines. I need you working on sleep. I need you drinking enough water. I need you eating vegetables, real vegetables, not gummy vegetables, but like an actual vegetable. That he at the time had burned it onto like CD discs. And so when you came in as a new patient to his office, you left with one. I mean, he charged for them, nothing crazy expensive. He was just burning them onto those little CDs. And it was just part of your new patient visit. You have to do this and you have to watch it before you come back for your second visit. And it was kind of genius because it was really good information. He had just exhausted repeating it. And that's what happens as a practitioner. After a while, you're like, I just don't want to tell anybody anymore about this. Like, how do you not know I'm going to say this? I say this 15 times a day. But again, each person's new. They really don't know, even though, your whole office is like, oh my God, if she says carrot one more time today. But, you're like, you're new to me. This is new to you. So we got to start from the top. So I did like that idea of his. I never actually pulled it together myself, but sometimes when I get tired of repeating the basics, I'm like, I should just do that because it was a great idea to just say, listen, this is really important. I don't have time for this anymore, but you do need to know.
Yeah. How do you, so for those patients that are like struggling to like either find time to work out or to like get a vegetable in or to at least get like some sunlight for like longer than 5 minutes, how do you work with the patient so that those habits start sticking for them?
You just keep peeling it back until it's manageable. And I would say, like, this was something I was really bad at early in my practice because I actually knew more in my first years of practice than I know now. I knew so much, and I knew the right way of people doing things, and I knew what their lives were like. So it's humbling over the years as you're like, oh, that's a bad approach. Oh, actually, sorry about that. You learn a lot from your patients, sometimes unintentionally, when you're like, oh, that was not good. Whoops. But a lot of it is like, I would go in and know, like, hey, I know if they do this, this, and this, it's going to help. And I know even now, I wasn't wrong, but it didn't fit with their life and it didn't fit with what they were doing in their day-to-day schedule. And like, I had more time at the time. I was new in practice. I didn't have any kids yet. I had more time. So it was so easy for me to give this like laundry list of like, this is going to make you feel better in like legit 2 weeks. And I'm not wrong. But some of those people had young kids and they were also in grad school and they were working and taking care of aging parents. And like, they were probably listening to me like, you're nuts, lady. I don't know. Like, I've already wasted half my time being here for 10 minutes. Right. And so I really learned to peel it back and peel it back and peel it back. And if it's like, listen, do you think you could eat one vegetable a day? A piece of lettuce on a sandwich, a carrot next to some hummus at some point, accidentally a pepper in the dinner. Like, could you eat a vegetable? And if they're like, yeah, that's dumb, I could do that. Then you're like, okay, do you think you could get like 1 cup of vegetables a day? Every day. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's in your eggs. I don't care if you just eat it out of a baggie. Don't care. Could you get in 1 cup of veggies? And if they're like, probably most days, that's my starting spot, right? If it's any more of like, well, I'll do my best, but at least once. Nope, too hard. Peel back. Peel back. I want it to be so that when you come in again, you're like, oh, I was actually eating 2 cups a day. The one was silly. Of course I could do that. Like, I did 2 instead because I realized, and like you need to find something that they're successful at. They repeat it because that's where the habit is. And then once something's there, like maybe I venture into something else. Okay, that's a little bit from the food corner. Can we get a walk in? Can we get squats in next to your desk? What kind of a work atmosphere? Could you walk to work? Anything. Can we tuck something somewhere? And can we make it small so it's doable every day, right? And if you're like, can you work out an hour every day? And they're like, whoa, you're like, nope. Could you, like, where could you tuck it in? And if you end up on like, okay, you're going to go to Pilates twice a week, maybe more if you've got time, but no less. You're going twice. And you're going to walk some other days. Can we start there? Then again, like that next visit, when you're asking them if they're like, yeah, I don't think I could have added more, but I did. I checked every day. I got a walk or Pilates. Something happened. I got it. It's like, okay, you built another little habit. Like they're not going to go backwards from there unless you overwhelm them and they're like, okay, I did everything you asked me. I also had to quit my job this week so that I could do everything, but I did. That's not, rational. So it is like sometimes the baby step is so tiny, but if it's successful, you can build on it.
Yeah. And I think that's where sometimes, and I even do this to myself, where like I think that I need to take this like big jump to like get to where I want to. And it's like if you actually take the tiny steps and have that consistency, you'll actually get to where you want to be. And it almost sounds like I make the comparison to like working out, where it's like you don't have to go from like, let's say like squatting like 50 pounds to 100 pounds. It's like each workout, you're going to slowly increase it so that you don't overstress the body. And this sounds like when you're creating a habit, you like slowly add up these habits or slowly increase the habits so that you don't stress your mind.
Totally. I mean, otherwise you burn out. And I've heard people call it habit stacking, which I do like that little term. That's like a cute little term where it's like you do a little thing and then you add a little thing. And then before you know it, you actually do a bunch of good things for yourself. Awesome.
Mhm.
Um, and it is just like really, really, really being respectful of what people tell you when they are overwhelmed, when they, aren't feeling that great, when there's too much going on. Like, they're not kidding. They're overwhelmed. They can't do more. And there's plenty of times that you look at them and you're like, well, you feel like crap because you're overworked, you're, underfed of nutrients, overfed of garbage. You're just trying to pull. I mean, like sometimes it's just like people tell you what their life is like. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, that's a menu for feeling like you do. No one is surprised. But, what's really flexible in their life? Can they move any of it? Sometimes they really can't move a lot of it. And you're only a jerk if you're just like, this is bad. Like they know that's why they're there. They're like, it's so bad. I feel so bad. Everything is bad. So
Yeah.
you are trying to just put like a little bitty, like, can we just squish a little goodness in here that like you like? So then you reach for a little more and then maybe you can tolerate your overly heavy schedule just a little bit better until things loosen up, until something changes. Um, it is. And I would say too, like, you've done a good job building habits when it's uncomfortable for you if you skip it.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I didn't go to the gym today because blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I kind of hated it. I'm going to squeeze it in at 6 tonight. Like, they went from like, I promise I will try to go to like, I don't like when I don't do something. And you're like, hooray! Like, you built yourself a great habit, right? Like, you got
Yeah.
yourself into it's not uncomfortable. But if you do overshoot it, like you're right, you'll overtax the mind. A lot of folks I see have thyroid issues. So they work out, they do everything for 2, 3 weeks. And for a small blip, they're like, I do feel better. I do have more energy. And then they totally bottom out and they're like literally in their bed for like a week and it's like nope, that's not racing is not how we get there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And I feel like so there's the one end of the spectrum of like patients where it's like sometimes it's like we need to consistently slowly build those habits, but then like on the other end there's people who will like switch their lives 360, and like how can people understand the difference between like pursuing health and then becoming obsessed with it?
um I mean there's only a few types of folks that can really turn over a new leaf, switch everything and stick with it and it be good, right? Like they're pretty rare. Usually when someone turns over a new leaf, I'm like, and the countdown begins to the blow up. 10, 9, oh, it fell apart. Okay, let's start again and let's do it my way. And again, like you do, the longer you're in practice, the more leeway you have to sort of push patients into like, you know, you're here paying me money because I know things. Like, you tried it your way. That's why you're here paying me money because your way didn't work. So can we stop doing your way? Like, and like sometimes it is a little bit of joking for them to like laugh at themselves and be like, okay, fine, I'll do it this way. I'm like, hey, remember last time when you did that and then this happened and then you tried it again and then this happened. And here you are paying me for a third time to ask my advice. Like, do you want it or not? Like, no sweat for me. You paid me 3 times to do your own shit and blow it up. But I'm just saying, like, do you want to try my way? Like, I've been sitting in this chair for 20 years for a reason. So I don't know. It might, and again, like you can be teasy and push a little bit when you've got a little leeway to be like, I promise I'm not here to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. You, on the other hand, I don't know if you're on your own same team or what, like what's going on. But kind of like the more you poke around, the more they're like, yeah, okay. All right. Well, that didn't work out. Oh, I shouldn't have done it. And you're like, okay now. And then there are a few that like I would say early in practice is when I learned the phrase, and I don't think it existed much earlier than when I got into practice. Orthorexia,
Mm.
like that wasn't even a term. I honestly don't even think I heard that term until I was in my practice for like 5 or 6 years. Once I heard the term though, I was like, oh, I know who that is. I know exactly who that is. Like, yes, we see those folks. Um, Especially when we start to toss around the terms of like eating clean, which is a garbage term. There's no such thing. Um, and people really do very subjectively turn that into what that means for them. You know, when I hear people talking about like toxin free living and I eat toxin free and I eat chemical free, and it's like, you clearly haven't been to a science class because like what you're saying is dumb. Like, water's a chemical. Like, a glass of milk, whether it's oat, nut, whatever, like there's chemicals in it because that's what makes up stuff, right? You're like,
Yeah.
do I need to go build you like a little molecular structure of stuff? Because a lot of those things we call chemicals, they just are. Like apples have chemicals in them. And I don't mean like, synthetic weird pesticides. I mean just the existence of an apple. So sometimes when you hear some of that like open-ended phrasing, it's problematic for a bunch of reasons. One is that people assign their own rules to what it means. And then sometimes you do get that person that really like just gets a little obsessive into that corner. You can usually pick out who that person is or is going to be because they usually do have some, maybe higher anxiety, maybe some obsessive traits already. And you're just sort of like, uh-oh, I don't think I'm going to hand you a very good tool. Much like patients that have a history of eating disorders, I personally would never give them calories to count or things to measure. Like that feeds into something that has been so harmful for them in the past. And if they've worked really hard with treatment to get themselves healthier, you're offering harm to be like, I want you to go home and count things and measure things and then measure yourself and then weigh this and then weigh your flour and then measure the egg. Like you're feeding right into where they struggle most, right? So sometimes just having an idea of like who the person is to be like, you know what? I'm going to need you to eyeball. I'm going to need you, or only hitting them numbers to hit. Make sure you get enough. Never eat less than blank. Don't eat less than this much. If you eat more, great. I don't care, but don't come in short here and don't come in short here. Sometimes like those are the only loose numbers you want to give some of those folks because they do turn it too much. And then that's their new thing.
That's the new thing that they obsess with. I love how you
Yeah.
said like getting enough, like shooting for more than like undercutting.
Yeah, because it keeps a lot of the measuring out. It's like just whoever you are, you can't have less than 80 grams of protein a day. That's all I want you to measure. More than that, great. Less than that, keep eating. I don't care about anything else. I don't need you to tell me about anything else. Here's the only thing I really care about right now is just never be less than this. Oh, you're increasing your training? We're going to bump that number up. Because again, like you already know they're prone to some of those pitfalls and like they've got their own stuff to struggle with. Like you don't need to be like, okay, well this time it's going to be great. No, it's still going to be a struggle.
Yeah, for sure. With let's say someone's thinking about that right now and thinking, okay, am I this person? Like how would you suggest that they check in with themselves to see if like they've gone too far or maybe like they're following someone in like in the wellness community? I don't want to completely target them, but like
Yeah.
that maybe that's causing harm to them actually healing.
I mean, there's a few real obvious signs. Like if you're someone that keeps getting like repeat stress fractures or injuries, like boom, you're doing something wrong. Something's not working. Especially when we see like runners that they get a stress reaction, stress fracture, then they get like a shoulder injury, but they never fell on their shoulder, but now their shoulder's hurting so bad they can't even run. And all of a sudden you're having different joints light up problematically that don't even really match the sport sometimes. You're like, you are breaking down. You are systemically breaking down. So sometimes it's, looking for people that have, again, repeat injuries or kind of a conglomeration of setbacks that, it's not like, oh, I ski and I crashed into something and I had like 4 injuries from my crash. And you're like, well, that makes perfect sense. That would hurt.
Mhm.
Please recover well. But if you're like, well, I've been doing this training and that training and this, and like I've got a hip thing and an elbow thing and a shoulder thing, and you're like, well, what happened to your shoulder? I don't know. It just sort of acted up. What's wrong with your elbow? It just started acting up. And you're like, something is not right. Your training is out. Maybe your biomechanics are not good. Something nutritionally is not working. You're not healing. Like that's just like it's one of those where like when someone starts to talk that way, I'm like, that's for my corner. Like come this way. Something's not working. And then I would say just in lighter form, if stuff like really isn't making you happy and it's easily upsetting, like you're trying to follow all this stuff, but like you just feel like you're not good enough at it, and like you just sort of like do an all over check of like, the stuff I like to think about makes me unhappy more than it makes me happy, right? Like something's off. Like I love to go to the gym. I do like CrossFit. I'm training with a friend for another High Rocks. We did one in the fall. And all of it is fun and silly, right? Like we are not going to be the winners. We are going to have another good time. Um, and I feel like whenever any of us are like doing something, if it didn't go well, it's kind of like an aw shucks. Oh, that didn't work out. Like, aw shucks. No harm done. See you tomorrow. It'll be more fun tomorrow. Today was stupid. Okay, goodbye. But in that very sort of like positive space of like, I'm still glad I went because I still had fun. I'm still happier for it. If you go and do your workout and you feel like you didn't work out enough and you're watching your numbers and like it didn't do what it was supposed to do, and like you really start to like have this sort of negative feedback, are you a pro and you're not going to get paid? Because if not, the rest of it should just be pretty much bringing a little joy into your life. You moved a little faster, your yoga was a little more balanced, you could lift a little more weight, whatever it is that you're kind of reaching for, it should be, especially as an adult, as kind of like a little yay me spot, not like I'm the worst or this isn't getting better or everyone was faster than me. Like anything that's giving you like negative kickback, it's like, why? Like what are you, even if you're training for, let's say, a marathon and you're trying to hit a certain pace, if it's not fun, none of it. The run is hard, the recovery hurts, you feel like you're not hitting your numbers. Like, what are you doing? Right? You might be like, oh, I'm never going to hit my pace, but I do love a good morning run. Great. Fine. You might be like, well, my run's uncomfortable, but man, I'm crushing it in the numbers. Like my splits are getting better by the second. Great. Something positive. If none of what you're doing is giving you a little kick of fun, then something's off. Wrong sport, overtraining, lack of rest, bad social group, that can happen sometimes. Some of those classes out there, like some group classes get very, competitive is not the word I'm looking for, comparative, right? Especially in some of like the aesthetic workout spaces, people feel like they're not wearing a cute enough outfit and they're not slender enough and they're trying to spot fix some fat bulge they found somewhere. And, it's like, did you go to class and feel great in your body and like, oh my gosh, it's so flexible today and you're so much stronger and you can hold this pose? Or did you go and come back with like worried about armpit fat or something that, someone told you to worry about and now it's your new thing? So I really think a lot of it is like, is it giving you some happiness, some joy, some positivity in some avenue or not? And if not, something is not right.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head when you were like, it's like comparative. Something within there is comparative of either like you're looking on social media and someone has a cuter workout outfit than you, or like someone hit a higher PR than you. And that just took like your accomplishment away from you because you let whatever you saw somewhere else that someone else did away from the joy that you actually had.
Yeah. And like once you go into that space, like something's not right. Right. And I would say, like, I tell the same people it's the same thing about social media. Like, I'm like, oh, what do you deal with like this or that? I'm like, honestly, I know we can't control their stupid algorithms and they get crazier by the day. But like in general, if it's someone I follow and every time they pop up, it gives me that visceral, like, oh, this person again. Hey, guess what? I just unfollow. Like one or two times, okay, fine. But if it's every time that person pops up and it drives me nuts, why am I doing that to myself? Why do I need to annoy myself? I just don't. Goodbye. I don't need to see you anymore. I don't need to block them. I don't need to hate on them. I just need to not be looking. Right. And so, same thing. Like if people follow my stuff and they're like, why are you doing this and why are you doing that? It's like, if it's bothering you, you can just unfollow. Like, that's okay. Like some stuff I put on there because it made me laugh. I don't even care if nobody else liked it. Like I personally had a little giggle and I moved on. Like if it's bothering you, you should unfollow me. You should block me. Like, don't look. So, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold from the weekend. But yeah, I think the comparison stuff, like, and the other thing too is that, like, especially in like the women's space, something that we have been told as like a societal group of women that is false is that women hate each other and that we're all out against each other. And there are some tiny little spaces where that's true, but again, usually because the women that are doing the hating, they think women are hating on them. They believe the lie. But it's wrong. It's super wrong. And the women's space in general is really cross supportive, right? And I think like deep down, we all know it. We've all been to the bar bathroom and you've met some besties that you never knew you had before in the bar bathroom. It's some divey bar. Someone is breaking up with their boyfriend. Everybody else is joining in on what all kinds of advice. There's hugs going around. You don't know anybody in there. Nobody knows each other. And you're just like, I have 17 new best friends because I went to the bathroom. Like that is, as much as we joke, but like that's truly what women in society are to each other. Right. And the whole like, she's hating on you for your hair and she's hating on you for this. It's like, no, probably not. And if that is happening, it's because she thinks women are hating on her. And once she gets let into the secret circle of like the bar bathroom, which is actually where we all live, like it's a lot better. And so I feel like there are way more spaces in gyms. Like you hit a PR and it's the girls around you that are like, yeah, oh my gosh, I saw you last week and you were trying so hard and you got it today and it was so great. Oh my God, so excited for you. Like, like the same energy comes in for lots of things. And so the comparison is out there, but like it just doesn't need to be. And I think people don't realize it's such a false wall, right? It's pretend. You can knock it down in a short bit.
Yeah. Don't let your own insecurities get in the way of you making your new bar bathroom friends.
Yeah, totally. Or like just be insecure. I'm feeling terrible today. This outfit's the worst. You guys look cute. Everyone's like, oh my God, you look cute. Like in 2 seconds, someone can't wait to compliment you and be like, you're the person I stare at every day. How could you even say that? Like, you're my person I compare to. What? No. Blah, blah, blah.
For sure.
But I mean, really, and those are the same, like, it sounds superficial, but those are the same people that respond well to like, I've had a death in the family or I've had a miscarriage or like some of the stuff that like we carry that is so heavy. Those same women are out there that are like, I know we don't talk about that because it's just a workout class, but like, me too, let's connect, right? Like, it's one little teeny level until you get to everybody's real sincere grit that they're, super willing to shoulder whatever you've got going on.
Yeah. And I think just like the vulnerability in that is the most important thing. And I find that with your content, you're able to just like show who you are, especially with your like wellness maven. Those like crack me up every time. I'm curious, like, how did you think of like the wellness maven and what made you like, what inspired you to create that?
So, I mean, some of it are just jokes I've made along the years because some of these things are just such like the caricatures exist out there, right? Like there's sometimes I like make a mockery out of wellness maven and then something pops up and I'm like, oh, that poor person, they're doing that for real. I was just teasing. But I mean, so it's like some of it is just out there. Excuse me. The parasite cleanse that comes around every couple of years. I laugh because people like patients of mine, friends of mine, whatever else, like people send me poop pictures, right? I get a lot of poop pictures. So if someone's listening and you're someone that has sent me a picture of your poop, if you're not, you're one of many. We'll do one of these like parasite cleanses, which usually irritates the inside of the intestine, and then you do poop out a lot of mucus, which can look wormy. I get it. So then of course we're like, oh my God, I thought this was garbage, and like I didn't want to tell you I was doing it, but then I started it, and then oh my God, like I really have worms. And nope, you don't. So some of that is just kind of funny, whatever else. And so I think the first one I did was on like detoxes, and I was just kind of fed up with like, I don't know if it was like online stuff and in real life and magazines, like just everywhere. But at the same time, I didn't want it to come off as like complainy and whiny and negative. I'm tired about hearing about detoxes and you don't even know what you're talking about and like whatever else. And so some of it is just sort of funny. And then as I'm setting it up, it just makes me laugh. And so, it's definitely a way to like discharge some of my annoyance at like some of the stuff that's out there in society. Like, it's like, do you really realize what you're doing? Do you legitimately realize what you're doing? Like, does that seem like a good idea? So sometimes spoofing it ends up being just a way to solve that.
Yeah. I know on one of your videos you had mentioned like detoxing and like people saying the word detox, and that's kind of like a buzzword that like comes around from time to time. Could you explain the difference between like what real body detoxing is compared to like what people are selling us?
So, I mean, on one level, your body has its own detoxification systems, right? Skin, liver, kidneys, like your body is working at all times to constantly detox you from whatever's coming in. Air you breathed in. You were driving behind a semi truck. You put 47 lotions on your skin every morning and half of them are garbage. Like, your body is constantly trying to keep up with that. Maybe you take medications that you need, right? You're taking your necessary medications and they have to be broken down in the liver so that they can actually be active and work for you. But there's other stuff in the capsule that is sort of inert, needs to be processed out. Like, it's at all times. People can fall behind on how well their system works. That is true. And I would say that's probably like the harshest step between like the strict medical community and wellness community is like everyone's a little bit right? So like you do have a body system that does all this. So saying you don't need a detox program, you don't need special supplements is most of the time true, mostly, right? But there are some folks that for one reason or a health reason or another, they do need a little health support. Maybe they are really nutritionally deficient. Maybe they've been through some really heavy medical treatments, whether it's chemo or they took long-term medications for like malaria or tuberculosis, something that really does kind of like weigh the system down. And you do need a little help getting your body to like clean up some stuff. From the wellness side, they make it sound like, don't forget that also is really based in purity culture. You're constantly pure and blah, 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 and has a little bit of a religious tint to it that I am not a fan of. So that's also another corner from like the detox world is you're constantly purifying yourself. But guess what? Like, humans are dirty and gross. And so you're still going to be a dirty, gross human when you're done. Ideally, just feeling better. So sometimes in that like little middle ground, if you're like, listen, let's say you've been a grad student and you're working and you eat fast food to and from your classes because there's one place to stop. It's this or nothing. You drink 47 gallons of coffee. You like sweetener in it. You've got to do homework until 2 a.m. You're eating Jolly Ranchers to stay light. You can definitely get yourself into a spot where you're like, this is the least healthy I've ever treated my body. I don't eat well. I don't eat on good timing. I'm not working out. I'm up all night. I can't fall asleep. So then I take, Unisom to fall asleep. Then I have to have 47 Red Bulls in the morning just to get going. Like, people do get themselves sort of mired in a spot where they're just surviving. Well, adding vegetables, adding water, adding the walk, right? We're back to the unsexy stuff. You really can help boost detoxification. Now, on those folks, I would also run a lot of labs. I would run nutritional labs. And I can often find that they have measurable nutritional deficiencies. So it's like, okay, you actually do need more vitamin C. You specifically do need glutathione. You do. Not everybody under the sun walking around needs it by the bucket load, but we tested you. You do need this. Your body will take better care of itself and clean house better with this. So there is a space for detoxing and there is a space for cleaning stuff up. And I would say like there's a lot of cultures that do a spring detox and they do it somewhat ritualistically, somewhat religiously. And that can be fine too, because again, it's usually like a little bit of an attention. It's usually in spring and it's usually a little bit, like kind of attending to, I got to get some more fresh produce in. I've been eating stuff from the cellar all winter. I need to not just get soup from cans. I need to like actually make my own soup. Like a lot of it is really just kind of like a little bit of like spring cleaning. But again, wellness community will take it to the nth degree, decide that you're a disgusting, disgusting person. You need to be purified and, buy $700 of this particular potion from me only. And that will bring you, So, and there's the irony is that everyone's needs are a little bit different, even if we're all kind of heading in the same direction. So there's always someone that like follows a special drink and then they break out in hives because they're allergic to the thing. And it's like, then they panic because they're trying to detox and now they're worse than ever. And it's like, okay, all right, we can help you out. And also we don't all have to do the same thing. So
yeah, that's fair. Individualizing your care is important. And I'm curious, like, for the person, let's say, like, they're super ambitious. Like, for example, myself, I'm ambitious. I'm in grad school, don't have a lot of money, but I struggle with PCOS. Like, how would you talk to that person on dealing with their health? And is it different from like just generally getting healthy?
So, I mean, being a woman in the PCOS space, obviously I would tell you to lose a bunch of weight and stop stressing. That's the answer. It's really easy. You can take care of all women that way, actually. Any woman that walks in, you're just like, 5 to 10 pounds would go a long way. Have you considered water? But no, I think, a lot of it's education, right? So from the get-go, it's like, okay, let's talk about PCOS, which is a metabolic, syndrome. Some people, yes, they have the cysts on their ovaries. Some do, some don't. Some have more insulin resistance. Some have more fatigue and bloating. It's like kind of trying to figure out like what's really the corner that's, the way your body works best and where it's stumbling along, right? And then how can you help it out? There's definitely some nutrients, especially like inositol and some other things that can really help with PCOS and really help against insulin resistance. So doing a nutrient panel is great if people can afford it. If they're like, that is money I do not have right now, like I'm just trying to exist in the world, then you're like, great. Then let's peel it back even more and get really simple. Trying to make sure that you're getting in 4 to 6 cups of cooked veggies a day. So you're getting lots of nutrients, easy to digest. You're not trying to like, some people can't take that much raw food, so making sure it's cooked, it's digestible, it's easy, it's cheap. Vegetables are cheap. Buy them frozen. Steam them, roast them, soup them, whatever you want to do with them, smoothie them, anything. Get those veggies in because those veggies are going to be a launch point for your probiotics, your good bacteria to grow. It's going to be a lot of fiber, and fiber in the gut doesn't just help us go to the bathroom, which is great, keeps us regular, but it actually entraps things that your body has already decided is waste. Hormones are a big thing, right? So a lot of times people make enough hormone, but they don't get rid of it very well. So as their body is trying to eliminate it, it's tossing in the liver's like, okay, you're done. Thank you, estrogen, for your job. Thank you, progesterone. Out you go. You get dumped into the intestine. As it's traveling through the intestine, our intestinal wall has receptors saying, oh, that's our estrogen. Oh my gosh, come back. Where are you going? And so we can have higher than necessary circulating levels of hormones, even if we're making an appropriate amount, but we're not getting rid of it in the right timeline. Having enough fiber there binds on to anything that's in the intestine. Like, I don't know why you were told to go. You were just told to go. So I'm here to escort you. I described it a lot like the bouncer at the door. I don't know what the problem was. I don't know what you were fighting over. It's just my job to throw you in the alley. That's it. You want to argue? Call the manager. I'm just the bouncer. So really trying to start there and just say like, get a system that's moving, that can eliminate properly, that can pull out waste that your body has already dictated as waste. Making sure to get enough exercise. And is that, a lot of times for PCOS, trying to keep cortisol levels a little more under control. So we're not spiking the panic hormone all the time. And it's like, listen, you should do heavy lifting, but it doesn't have to be HIIT. It could be going to the gym, walking around, listening to music, doing a couple sets of heavy stuff, but in between chit-chatting, stretching, like, getting a really good heavy workout in, but the pace and the tone was comfy, right? And you did a heavy set, and then you walked around, and then you took a lap around the track, and then you came back and did a heavy set. So overall, you did some heavy weights, which is wonderful. Pushing heavy weights, aside from bone health, is great for muscle to help with insulin and sensitivity levels. It's one of the best things people can do is lift heavy weights for better insulin sensitivity. But again, it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to time you and you have 14 minutes to like race around and do 7,000 deadlifts. It could be, you're going to deadlift and you're going to take a lap walking, and then you're going to do some pull-ups, and then you're going to come back to deadlifts. And then, you were here for an hour and you worked out very hard, but the tone, like the mood was very, very chill. And I would say starting in some of those places for PCOS is a great spot to like start to get things rolling into like, and really trying to figure out like, did my body feel good the next day, or did I have to sleep for 24 hours to recover from that workout? And that's like your little like weathering device of, I'm pushing too hard too fast and I pay for it every time. Or actually I felt great and then I wanted to do more. Great, do more. And then I did a little more, and actually that felt pretty good. And then I did more, and then I had to sleep for 48 hours. Okay, oops, one notch back. But really trying to figure out like what is feeling good for your body, what's giving you good feedback from your body, right?
Yeah. No, I like that where you say like, what is good feedback for you? Because I think sometimes that we think because something else worked for someone else, even if they have PCOS, like that doesn't mean it's going to work for you because everyone has different lifestyles that they're dealing with.
I mean, PCOS is a mess because it's a syndrome. So it's really hard to match out, without being personalized. You really have to personalize it and say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I tried that. Like that. I know you and I both have PCOS, but like for me, that like gave me a rash for 10 days and I had hives and I was itchy and like that was not a good time for me. I'm glad it's working for you. I did this other thing. And again, it can be very different. Like some people have really irregular periods, some people don't. Some people have a lot of the hirsutism and they have like the extra hair. Some people don't. Um, Definitely a lot of those women are always told like you're really going to have trouble getting pregnant. It's going to be really hard. And some people do, but many don't. So there's just as many women that I have that are like, oh my gosh, we started trying early knowing it could take us 7 years and I had a baby for my honeymoon. Whoops. And sometimes that's exciting and sometimes they're like, that's not what I wanted. I thought I had more time. So, really sort of learning what's out there and then kind of taking it all with like a broad stroke of like, okay, these are all possibilities and these are all different women's stories. I don't know if they're my story, but these are things.
Yeah.
Some people do go on the pill, and if they go on the pill for their own personal reasons for it, super. If they go on it because they think it's going to be a one-hit solution, nope, it won't be.
Yeah.
But
it was interesting when you were saying about fiber, where it's like it's not just about like getting you to poop, it's like to get the actual like hormones that aren't needing to be used like out of the way. Why would it be bad if those hormones aren't being eliminated? And is that why, well, I'll start with that question first. So like what goes on if those hormones are left in like circulating in our system?
So again, it's not everybody, but definitely some people, they have a hormone imbalance, right? And they do true hormone testing, et cetera. And it's like, oh, your testosterone is too high, which could be another PCOS thing. Your estrogen is too high, your progesterone is too low, or one's too high and one's too low. Sometimes what's happening is that from the actual hormone production, the actual ovaries and uterus are producing them just fine in decent normal ranges. But some of those people don't eliminate what's already supposed to be discarded. And because it's higher than levels than circulating, they're having symptoms of like, I have too much estrogen, or this is wonky, and so I'm having this symptom, I'm having that symptom. Sometimes it's a matter of like they're overproducing or underproducing, but sometimes they're not. Everything is normal. They're just not balanced in like the elimination spot. So especially for hormones, because they have a steroid base, they're much harder for the body to work with. They're not water soluble, right? Like you overdo vitamin C, it's like, oh, okay, well, I peed the rest out. The end. I really, really, really overdid it. Okay, I had loose stool for a day. Okay, well, fixed. That was the end of that. Like your body just solves the water soluble stuff so simply, and anything else that does need extra breakdown and more steps to break it down to eliminate it, sometimes we fall behind for one reason or another. And I would say like there's definitely some folks, especially if they've been taking the pill or they have been doing IVF, so they've been taking for a few years like a bunch of hormones. Sometimes when they need a break, they really do need help filtering some of that stuff out. That would be a time when it would be like they do need a little detoxification help. They really do. But step one is still going to be that load of veggies again, for simply that reason of like your body can do some stuff. It just needs to catch up. So before we get really fancy, let's just help it do what it's already doing. And if that's not enough, we'll go up a notch. But it might literally just be that you need better elimination and you need fiber grabbing on to waste material and actually making sure it's out. That's more like this when you have people that are, especially women, but men too, and they start showing like adult acne and they're having different flares and it's definitely hormone based. Sometimes just by really, really pushing cooked veggies and eating them consistently and like pulling stuff out of the system, in a few weeks their skin is better. And they're like, oh, my skin looks so much better. And it's like, yeah, you literally just need a little help. Would it have solved itself over time? Probably. The difference is, do you want to do this for 12 months or 2 years, or do you want to feel better in 3 months? Like, this is not a disaster and you're not super sick and it's not the end of the world, but you could feel better sooner.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if you know much about this, but I know some people, like you had mentioned, like, okay, if you go on the pill for like to not have babies, that's okay, but to fix your PCOS, probably not the best idea. Have you heard anything about like bioidentical hormones, like using like progesterone for stuff for like PCOS, and what are your thoughts on it?
So, I would say there are some times that people choose the pill for PCOS or other period things, just to fix symptoms. And I wouldn't argue against that either. It's really all about informed consent. That's the end. What I don't like is when we have girls at like 16 with an irregular period, they're put on the pill to quote unquote fix it. They go off of it at 30. It turns out, hey, guess what? They still have an irregular period. We just covered it up for a bunch of years. And now they're like, now I do want kids and my period is wonky and like something is wrong and no one ever fixed it. It's like, nope, nobody fixed it. Everyone was just like, don't look, shh, don't look. So that's my frustration. And when people go in with PCOS or other stuff and they're offered the pill a little bit more kind of as a whole, like, well, I don't know, that sounds bothersome. So like have a pill and have a nice day. I don't like that. But if it's all explained, then it's like, you know what? Gosh, I do have PCOS and the pill might make my life easier in the following ways. And people choose it. Like, by all means, like, that's your educated choice. That's your body. If you're like, you know what? I just need a little break right now. And I'm just tired of dealing with these symptoms. And I know I'm not going to fix anything. I just, like I'm in school. I just can't deal right now. I'll look at this in 4 years. I'm not opposed to that. You made a very conscious choice. You have an idea. You learned. You dove in, eyes open. Fine. In terms of like bioidentical, as long as like they're testing and they're measuring and there's, a goal in mind and somebody monitoring, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. Sometimes I know there's a doc that I refer to here for bioidentical hormones for people. And one of the things I like about her is that she does a lot of testing and she does a lot of titrating. And she's also really heavy handed into people's personal habits. And if, they come in eating ice cream for breakfast and not sleeping, like she gives them a piece of her mind, But if people really are doing their best and they're really, really, really struggling, then it's great because she does a great job of matching up what they need, following up with them, saying like, you're probably gonna need this for 6 months, but in 6 months we could probably change it. Like, this is just a moment in your time. So any of that, like I'm up for anybody helping themselves. And I would say I have a pretty wide range of accepting of what people do as long as they're informed. Like, even if it's something I would never do, it's like, do you know what you're doing? Okay. Do you know the harms? You do. You still want it because this is what you want? Okay. I mean, that's your body.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot different when someone's like, oh, I was told to do this. And you're like, why? And they're like, I don't know. Like, do you want to do this? I don't think so. Did you ask? No. How do you feel about it? Kind of scared. It's like, okay, then don't do that yet. You need more information. Like that's, that's not informed consent just because you're nodding like, okay, all right. Oh my God. Okay. Like that's not it. So.
Yeah, you're allowed to ask questions.
It's, you're going to tell a lot of patients, go ask questions. And sometimes we write questions in the office and it's like, take this to your OB-GYN. Like some of them haven't answered your question because they're jerks, but they really are pretty few and far between. The majority haven't answered your questions because you didn't ask it and they couldn't read your mind and you panicked at the last minute or you didn't want to be a bother or whatever, and like I would say 99 times out of 100, if you ask the question, you get some answer. And maybe you don't like the answer and that's okay too. You can make new decisions, but I would say it's very rare for someone to really get a cold shoulder. Yes, it's happened. Yes, I've definitely heard some bad stories. But more often than not, it's just the person clams up or doesn't want to be rude or thinks they shouldn't bother the doctor. And it's like, but this is something that really matters to you. Like you went home and Googled it for 7 hours and made 17 phone calls. Like you care. You want to know. Ask the person that, is prescribing that to you. Like you can talk about it. And then sometimes they do come back and say like, oh, actually I learned all this other stuff. And actually I got 2 more choices or whatever else. And sometimes they're like, this doctor really didn't want to talk about it. So actually I'm just going to change doctors. And you're like, also valuable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important to like realize you actually yourself as a patient have the power to like control what's going on within the room because it's your health and that it's important to know what's going on with your health. Yeah.
And I would say doctors as a whole generationally have shifted in the 20 years I've been in practice. I feel like as a whole, and I know a lot of things have shifted overall. Insurance has shifted and all these other things have sort of changed that I think the old framework of like paternalistic, you go into the doctor, you mind your manners, doctor tells you what to do, you follow the rules, you ask no questions, you go home. That's a thing of the past from both sides. I see far more doctors don't want to be that way with patients either. They don't want to come in and drop an edict and have the patient just nod quietly and go away. Like, sometimes it's the doctor that's like, do you have questions? Are you sure? Do you want to know about this? Like, hello? So, it's kind of funny because I think it's just shifted a little bit. So it is more welcoming for people to ask questions. They just need to remember that they should. They're almost always openly, I feel like more often than not, doctors are like, I'm such a nerd for my craft. I'm so glad you asked me. Like, you want to know more about the ankle? Oh my gosh. Like, wait until you see this, and you've tapped into like what's actually their interest. But I would say somewhere along the lines, I realized like the generation behind me, like I fell into that like Gen X group. The group behind me, at the time younger girls started asking way better questions of things we never would have. They would come in asking me about periods, about stuff about their bodies, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, the women that come in that are a generation above me wouldn't dare. And if I have questions about that, I have to ask. I have to promise I need to know. I have to promise they aren't bothering me. I have to promise they aren't grossing me out. Like, I have to like make the room so safe to be like, do you sometimes leak urine? Do you know the percentage is sky high? Do you know this is super common? Are you aware that there's whole fields, and then finally they'll be like, well, I used to be a runner, but I stopped after my last kid. But because I had kids. And it's like, okay, right? And then my generation's a little better. We're definitely better with each other. We still wouldn't want to have like our parents ask questions or things like that. And then the younger group is just like, I saw this. And so I check it out in the mirror. And what do you think? And you're like, wow, okay. But, getting such better information sooner. So I feel like the room is more receptive on both ends.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed having you on this podcast so much today. I have one question for you that I wanted to ask before we get into like where people can find you. But what is one thing you would like every single woman walking away from this podcast today knowing about their health?
Oh my gosh. There's so much to know. I think that they should value their own health. And I mean that in terms of like personal value. Don't let someone else tell you what you should be doing with your body. Like, you decide what you want to do with your body and go ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. Change what you're doing if you don't like it. You can say no thanks if it's something that you don't, because it does really matter to you. And if you feel uncomfortable or unhappy with something, it is absolutely valid for you to seek differently or want differently. No one else's opinion really matters besides yourself. So like, your own health does matter, and it should matter to you first.
I love that. Where can people find you?
So right now, definitely Instagram if you want to just sort of snoop at what I'm doing. And a lot of times it's just a lot of pictures of food and other stuff. But I'm definitely always open for questions and things like that on there. I'll have to find Wellness Maven will have to come out of retirement for a little bit. She hasn't retired. She's just been busy. But she'll have to come up with something. It's kind of hard when the daily news is worse than what Wellness Maven can offer. So
that's fair.
She said, like, there's times where I'm like, do people know that this is satire? Because what's going on right now is more satirical than what she was doing. But and then I would say email. I'm at drsirchio@gmail. And I do see patients via telemedicine. I'm definitely up for just like, if you've got a quick question to run by me or something and you're just not sure, that is totally fine. And I would say mostly there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for hosting me. Great to chat.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Becca Babbles podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, the best thing that you can do is leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other listening platform of your choosing. If you want to learn more about me, you can do that by following me on Instagram at Becca and Wellness, or by checking out my blog, freebies, offers, and newsletter on my website at beccaandwellness.com. If you want to share the love of the podcast, you can do that by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media and tagging me and the podcast at Becca and Wellness and using the hashtag Becca Babbles Podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to babble with you next time.